Thank you, Coochie Too Big. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to episode 3 of the podcast, Zasha Loves Chats. Today, I'm going to be discussing my health, my disability, and just going over my story. Basically, it's been asked of me to explain some things, so I'm going to just tell all. Basically, I have some notes here to help me remember which direction I'm going in with the story, because I don't really know where to start with this. I'll give a slight summary to start with. So, for starters, I'm Zasha. I'm 28 years old, and I have Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, which is EDS for short, which is a connective tissue disorder. EDS is a rare genetic condition, and there are 12 or 13 different types of EDS. Don't quote me on that. I actually can't recall exactly how many there are. But yeah, it's a fairly recent diagnosis, only last year, and it is definitely the reason why I don't look 28 years old. That's one of the things, is you generally look younger than the age that you are. Not everyone that has EDS does, but for me, that's kind of a positive, I suppose. So, geez, I don't even know really where to start. But yeah, as I just said, EDS is a connective tissue disorder. So it affects connective tissue, which is everywhere in your body. And it's not progressive. So it's not to say that it will gradually get worse. It can. It's completely different for everyone who has it. And especially people who have different subtypes or types. I'm not really sure what you would describe it as. You can have more than one type of EDS, and there's actually not a lot of research on it, which is really disappointing. It's very difficult to navigate, and it's also very, very difficult to get diagnosed, because there are medical professionals who don't even believe that it is real, that it even exists, when you can see it in genetic marker. It has genetic markers. You can't deny that. Well, anyway, there's a lot of issues surrounding that, but I happen to have a very, very, very good doctor, and she's really helped me along the way. So I think what I'll do is I'll start from the start. Basically, EDS has been affecting me my entire life. Unexplainable things since I was a child, and it took 27 years for me to get this diagnosis. For some people, it takes longer. And hopefully, for future generations, it will not take this long, and that people will be able to pick up on them far earlier, so that they can at least have better treatment and management plans, because Lord knows I did not. And unfortunately, I've made it worse. I feel like I'm getting off track because I keep sort of going, this is not going to be a linear story. My mind doesn't work like that. I don't really know how to even talk about it, but I am going to really delve into basically everything. So this is pretty raw for me. This is pretty new for me. I've done a lot of research only recently, past maybe 9 months, I would say. I also, even more recently, have been diagnosed with POTS and MCAS, which are very commonly linked to EDS. So there are conditions that are linked to EDS, because EDS, as I said, affects your connective tissue. So yeah, it's pretty crazy how it's almost like a domino effect of things that you end up finding out that you have. So to start with, I've had back pain since I was, as I can recall, as young as 7 years old. Probably before that, but that's as far as I can recall. And I thought it was normal. I thought it was normal. I was very fit, played sports every day. I was very outdoorsy, loved physical education, but I also loved sitting down and playing on my Game Boy and all that sort of stuff. So I was no stranger to keeping myself very healthy and fit. I ate very well as well, which I was very lucky that my mum prioritized that. I know that helped contribute to, I suppose, not allowing things to worsen from a young age. I'm not explaining this well, sorry. Anyway, so yeah, I started getting back pain from a young age. I would get very tired standing still. Not like angsty, not because I was unable to sit or stand still. It was just standing, like orthostatic intolerance. Jesus, my mind's going blank. Anyway, so when I would go to the shops with my mum, for instance, we would be standing there, she'd be shopping and looking at clothing, and I'd be standing and I would get so tired, like you're moving from sort of like one hip to the other because you're just getting uncomfortable. And it would happen so frequently, I should say, that my mum would just say, just sit down on the floor. I'll browse the area and then I will come grab you and we'll head to the next shop. So we did that often. My mum was very, very accommodating, which, bless her, I love my mum. And so that was something smaller that I've looked back on now and gone, yeah, the signs were there. When we would go supermarket shopping, my mum would put me in the trolley, and I don't mean as a baby, as a toddler, even 10 years old. I would sit in the shopping cart. Mum would take off her coat, she'd put it in the shopping cart so I could sit down, and pretty much every single grocery shop was like that. We didn't have a car growing up, so we walked everywhere, and I could walk for miles, for kilometers. No big deal. Again, very sporty, but my back would always get sore when walking and standing, especially, and my hips as well, from a very, very young age. Like, that's a concerningly young age. There were other little bits and pieces too. I would get sore throats for no reason. I wasn't sick, I didn't have swollen tonsils. I didn't have any kind of I just wasn't sick. I would have these sore throats and they would go away as quickly as they would come. So maybe for a few hours in a day, definitely when waking up. We went to the doctors and the doctor just thought it was some sort of like viral thing, but it would happen often, to the point where I was like, well, what are you going to do? Nothing, I suppose. Doctors were a little dismissive, especially with children. So the big one though was definitely back pain, and I would even say fatigue from a young age. Although I had a lot of energy, I was also big on sleep. I was late to school every day because I would sleep in. I would really, really struggle to get up. I would struggle to wake up. Um, that has never gone away to this day. I sleep like a dead person. But yeah, so I would really struggle to wake up and get up. It was my poor mum, unfortunately, would get a bit of flak from the school because they'd be like, you live across the road, why is she late every day? And it genuinely was that I was just exhausted, especially when waking up. And I love my sleep, especially now. I miss having the sleeps I had when I was younger. Getting off track. So I suppose fast forward, I'm definitely going to go back and forth in the timeline because when I talk about some things, it makes me remember some other stuff. But I'm going to jump to when I was 19 years old. and it was the first time I ever had a blood test. I'd never had one before, and it came back abnormal. Bizarre. I was otherwise a pretty healthy person, undiagnosed autism at the time, but other than that, I was always very fit. So bloods came back, and my white cells were low, specifically my neutrophils. This was odd. I wasn't sick. There was no obvious cause as to why this was happening. So my doctor was like, okay, we're going to wait a little bit, retest, see what's going on. So we waited, retested. They came back low again. Neutrophils specifically low. Everything else was fine, except I have very low B12, which is a hereditary thing. Granddad has it, mum has it, I have it, unfortunately. Anyway, yeah, so the neutrophils were low. They couldn't figure out why. And I also had, you know what? I say I was very healthy, but the thing is, I wasn't, but not in a obvious unhealthy way. It was weird. I would get weird symptoms, which we obviously now know why and what was causing them. But at the time, in my head, I was otherwise healthy in my body. And so as time went on throughout this year, they couldn't figure out why my neutrophils were low. It wasn't like too concerning, but it was also like, why? Which is the age-old question to any health condition that's either uncommon or rare, sadly. So I was also getting increasing amounts of symptoms, bizarre symptoms, but also ones that I'd had for a long time. If you have ever had growing pains, you will know that they suck. I never stopped having them. So obviously they weren't growing pains anymore, but I had them my whole life. Severe aching in my legs, in my knees, and just above my knees. Terrible. Oh, I would cry at night often, very regularly, and that never stopped all through my childhood, through my teens, to this day. So that was a very common thing where it just felt like my bones were aching. And it was weird at 19. I'd finished growing 7 years before. So yeah, it was like, okay, why is she getting aching legs all the time? I was also having other symptoms, which, you know what, it's really gone out of my head right now, but I was having a multitude of symptoms that appeared could resemble someone who has blood cancer, leukemia. So my doctor really wanted to rule that out first and foremost. But that required some pretty invasive testing. So I had a bone marrow biopsy and aspiration at 19, and it was not pleasant. It was really uncomfortable. I can't say that it was specifically painful. It was just really uncomfortable. But again, EDS does weird things to you, and my pain tolerance is far different from the average person's. Another issue is that a lot of people with EDS have an intolerance to anesthetic, which means we need more. We feel a lot of the stuff that is going on either in surgeries when you need to be awake, like local anesthetic, or at the dentist. When I tell you, every single dentist appointment I ever had, I felt it. I felt it so bad. And that's because they never gave me enough. And I told them when I was at the dentist every time as a child, I would say, I can feel that. My nerves are on fucking fire right now, and I would try to push my skull into the back of the seat to get away from the drill. And our evil dentist at school just dismissed it. But you know what? At the same time, I can't fully blame them, because a child complaining about it may not 100% understand the difference between if they are feeling actual pain or if they are just really uncomfortable about what is going on. Not that a child should be invalidated, because I was invalidated, but at the same time, that's their job day in, day out, so I don't really know what they were thinking. Once I went to an adult dentist as an adult, that changed, because when I would say I could feel it, which happens every time, they give me more anesthetic until I cannot. And I didn't know the dentist could actually be a pretty pleasant experience until I went to one that listened to me. Getting off track. So yeah, I had a bone marrow biopsy and aspiration. And if you don't know what that is, they basically need to get a sample of your bone marrow and your bone. So they need to knock off a small piece of bone. And for me, it was in my pelvis, which is, I think, the most common spot. So it's like your back, your lower back, and your pelvis. So I'm laying on my side, on my right side. So they did it on the left side of my pelvis. The doctor lady, doctor, she was very, very lovely, but she had a really nice accent, so it just made the experience a lot smoother for me. And my mum was there, and they had a nurse at the side with the gas, if you need that, just to conk you out a little bit extra. But you have to be awake for this. So they give you a local anesthetic in your pelvis. I'm very scared. I'm very, very nervous. I get very nervous about medical procedures. I have this thing called, I have another thing added to the list, vasovagal syncope, which is when your body reacts kind of like fight or flight to, generally it's like needles, and you pass out, or you just sweat and you get faint, and it just, your body reacts without you even having the choice. Because I ended up having tons of blood tests, and still every time my body reacts, I should say it overreacts. So I get very scared because of the way that my body reacts, which makes it worse, of course. Anyway, they numb it. That's fine. The first thing they do is they need to get the bone marrow. So they stick a big needle into your pelvis to get bone marrow out. And that is very uncomfortable. It pinches. It's this unexplainable feeling, basically. I mean, it's going in your bone. So it's like a very uncomfortable pinching in your pelvis. And I got through that. It was deep. You can feel how deep this feeling is. Oh my God. It gives me the heebie-jeebies thinking about it. It's almost been 10 years since then as well. And then they have to knock off a bit of the bone, and I'm sure my memory is a bit skewed because I ended up taking the gas for this part because I was very scared when she said, basically brace yourself, but in much kinder terms. So she violently shakes my hip and rams it into some sort of fucking ice pick, or, I don't even know, I don't know what it was, something to break a piece of bone out of your back. She's shaking my whole body into this thing. It felt violent, and very invasive. And I'm on the gas, and I'm trying desperately to make it through this procedure. But everyone was really lovely and kind. So yes, I made it through. And then the doctor said, do you want to see the piece of bone? And I am a very, very curious person. Turned over, blood everywhere, all over her, all up her arms, all over the table, the side table, and me. So I roll back over and just, not today, please, not today. That procedure still causes me pain to this day. Not something I knew at the time, not something that anyone told me. I have heard that when you are a younger person and you get a bone marrow biopsy or aspiration, that it takes longer for you to heal from it, and it is worse for you than it is for someone who is older. Don't quote me. That is what I've heard, and it is what I saw last year. My grandma passed away from acute myeloid leukemia, and she passed away very, very quickly. And they did a bone marrow biopsy on her, and she was walking fine the next day after she got it. I could not walk for weeks. I was in so much pain, and I was very uncomfortable. It was very difficult to go to the toilet, to sit, to lay, to stand. It all hurt. And like I said, this morning I woke up. I have the same pinching feeling from when I got it in the exact spot. So I do have back pain from that procedure to this day. Just not the same as the back pain that I've always had, which is more of my middle back. So anyway, that's quite descriptive, I know, but that really is what where it started, I should say. That's really where it started, where it was like someone's taking me seriously and things are happening and we don't know what's going on. I also had oral thrush for a very long time, like a year, probably less than a year, for no reason. You know, that there was I didn't contract it. Your body naturally has what's it called? Candida in your body, and so it can happen when you are sick. It can happen from taking antibiotics, breaking down your immune system. It's just one of those things that can happen. So I had it, and it wouldn't go away with medication, and that was fucking horrible. Your tongue is like falling to pieces. Your throat is like the skin's just falling out. So that wouldn't go away, and that as well, combined with all the other symptoms, that's why my doctor had sent me like to hematology, and why they got the bone marrow biopsy and aspiration. Now, they did not find anything from this, which, amazing. That's really good. I don't have leukemia, but what the fuck is going on? Well, you're not going to find out for another 9 years, so buckle up, Zasha, I suppose. They said something weird, like it wasn't like the results were perfect. They just were really odd in the way they said things, but they basically just said, we can't really do anything for you, which makes sense. Our medical system is very strained, so that was that. And then my doctor she really tries to figure out what is going on when you have problems. She tries very, very hard to figure that out. My sister goes to the same doctor, and my sister was born with a tendon ligament too long in her leg, and other doctors just told her, lose weight and you'll be fine, when she's having like dislocations every other day. So my doctor got to the bottom of it. You know, like people really taking you seriously goes a long way, and our doctor really does that. So big shout out to her. Off track again, I apologize. So I started working for the first time when I was just 20, I think, just gone 20. This is, after all of this stuff went down. I taught myself how to drive. I bought my first car for like, I don't know, $600, and I taught myself to drive, and I started working in logistics, which I ended up working in for many, many years. And it's very physical. It's all very physical. Even when I was a supervisor, you have to be hands-on. So I'm driving forklifts, I'm devanning containers filled with tons and tons of products, and scanning items, stacking items, destacking pallets, and just, God. And that job was very tolling on my body. and I would come home after work and I would fall asleep on the floor in my bedroom with my work uniform still on. Um, Pretty much every night. I would be too tired to take off my clothes to hop into my bed. And I didn't want to hop into my bed before having a shower. And I was too tired to do any of that. Sometimes I'd fall asleep, wake up eventually, and have a shower, but it was pretty much always like that. And the fatigue was phenomenal. But I didn't think that it was abnormal because I didn't know any different. I didn't know that not everyone is basically dead after just doing work. So that sort of, yeah, I mean, Jesus, I don't know. It was pretty rough. And I would just keep moving. I worked in that job for a few years and I went from working in the warehouse to the office to the warehouse again. I got promoted like 3 times, and working in the office was no better because sitting in the chair also just really hurt my back, and the people just weren't as pleasant as in the warehouse. So that wasn't the most ideal situation. And then I left that job and I went to another job, but I realized I was very unhappy. And so I thought, you know what, I don't want a job that's so demanding of me. And then I went and worked as a dispatcher who in that job you don't do as much crazy it's not as physically demanding. There's physical work. I'm lifting double door fridge freezers on a um, what do you call it? A sack barrow? I don't know what they're called in other countries, but a sack barrow basically where you stick it under and you lift it with the 2 wheels. Um, and I'm wheeling that around. You can't see me behind it, behind the fridge freezer. It's gone walkabouts, and big fucking mattresses and stuff. I'm lifting them, my whole body. Like it's still physical, but less physical. And it was not full time. Before I was working 6 days a week, long days, long hours. This was 3 full days, so it was a big leap down. But I was still able to support myself, and I realized it wasn't right. It still wasn't right. I thought I've lessened my hours, I've lessened my workload and the physical toll on my body, and for some reason my body is still rejecting it. I don't understand. I'm trying to rest as much as possible, and I eat quite reasonably well, but yeah, I didn't really know what was doing it. Jumping back as well, I did go through a time where I only ate crunchy peanut butter on toast for about 3 years, which was around when I had the biopsy and stuff. Excuse me, I was malnourished at that time. Do you know, I'm so stupid. I say I was healthy at the time, but I wasn't. And the reason I wasn't is because I was also getting hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar. Who knows why? I don't know. We didn't know. My doctor did not know why. I would get these moments where all of a sudden, holy shit, I I would just have to sit down. I'd sit really suddenly. And sometimes my mum would have to make me like a piece of toast and a drink or something because I would have to like eat something like right away. And excuse me, carbohydrates were like the go-to because like yeah, I could have like a juice box, but it wouldn't really do the like it's a very temporary thing and I would need the carbohydrates were sort of the thing that would really boost me back up. So we didn't really know what was going on there. Again, unexplained. So many unexplained things at the time. To be honest, not really completely explained now, but kind of like I can really link stuff a bit better and say this is like because of that. Like very well. Like most of the stuff that I had can be explained by EDS, but some things couldn't, and they are more explained by POTS or MCAS. Now, if you don't know what those are, POTS is basically a condition where your my mind's gone freaking blank. Hang on, let me get my notebook. I actually can't think when I'm not sort of like looking away. Oh wait, I've got it written down here somewhere. POTS. Postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome is what it stands for. It's a blood circulation disorder that causes symptoms when standing upright. So basically, it's like your blood is under your heart, I think, and it can make you faint and dizzy, and you basically have like heart sort of symptoms and like just like weird symptoms because of it. Really terrible explanation. Why? Oh yeah, I've written here. Why does heart rate increase excessively with POTS? Lower amount of blood in the circulation, excessive pooling of blood below the level of the heart when upright. It's very specifically when you stand up. So it's when you stand up or as you are standing, which can be mistaken for having low iron or even low blood pressure, which I have really low blood pressure. So much so my doctor will say, I would send you to the hospital if it were anyone else, but she knows it's my normal. I don't have low iron. That's not an issue for me. Even though I'm vegan, a lot of people are like, they think it's a given. It's not. My iron's always been very reasonable. So the reason a lot of the time I get like blind. I go blind. My vision completely goes when I stand up sometimes. But I think I'm getting off track again. I can't even remember where I was at before. I was explaining what they are. And MCAS is mast cell activation syndrome. And basically, it's like being allergic to yourself. Like your mast cells activate, as the name says, and you can break out in like hives or itchiness or like allergic type of reactions, but not specifically to anything, but sometimes to things, because things can make it worse. Like if you eat foods that are high in histamines, or if you drink alcohol that has histamines, stuff like that can make it worse. So you have to be very specific in the way in which you eat for all three of the conditions that I have, by the way. The best part is that for all three, I believe all three, you have to have more salt. So I need to have about 4 times more salt than the average person. And I can tell you right now, yeah, I do. Like I freaking not only do I crave it, like a healthy salt, obviously, but I feel much better when I do have it. And the reason that is like it helps retain like your volume, the volume of like your blood and the water. Fuck, I found just don't quote me on any of this. This is not proper medical advice or even a proper medical discussion. This is just my own silly research that I can't seem to conjure together correctly. Anyway, so to go back to working, the big one was my physical intolerance to basically anything. It's, for me, it has been progressive, but again, it was undiagnosed. So yeah, it's kind of a tricky one because some people after being diagnosed find treatment plans, not, I guess you could say that, like management plans that end up helping them live even with more quality of life. For me, it has been progressive and it has gotten worse. And my doctor has tried very hard to help me with that. Going back to the job that I was working 3 days a week, So I was working that job, and I eventually decided to leave. Loved the guy I was working with, really cool guy, really obsessed with like collecting vinyls, and he'd get them sent to work and show me, and just a really, really cool guy. But I had to leave, and I think I was unemployed for a little while I just tried figuring out my health, how to manage it, and what to even do. Um, so I can't remember what happened in between, but then I eventually was like, I need to work. I don't mind working, and I like money. So I went back into logistics again, and and this job unfortunately was a lot worse physically. It was very basic. You just pick orders. I didn't want an emotionally and mentally tolling job. I just wanted something I could leave at work because I thought that was contributing to a lot of my fatigue. So this one was even less responsibility than the last ones. You literally just voice pick orders. You just talk into a little thing, and you build really big pallets. The problem is that in an 8-hour shift, I was lifting around 16 ton of product, like manually, give or take. But averaging, I would say about 14 ton on average, because I would calculate, because it tells you how big the order is, like how many ton it is. And that's a fucking lot. That is a lot of weight, because a lot of it was drinks, alcohol, soda, fizzy drink, all that sort of stuff. So you're stacking like heavy stuff. Some of the best orders you could get were just toilet paper. You just stack a pallet of toilet paper. God, it was like heaven getting those ones. Um, and I'm lifting high. These are high pallets too, so you're lifting like very high. One thing I do have as well is I've got a heel spur, which it feels like you have a little sharp rock in your heel. And if you have ever, as a child, ran across the ground outside and accidentally stood on a little sharp rock, you know how that feels. And so, yeah, that really fucking sucks. So when you're working, which I'm wearing good shoes, steel caps, sometimes I would just stand on my foot slightly wrong on my heel, and it hurts bad. You can't you can't put any pressure on it after that for like an hour or so. I'm walking on the front of my foot picking these orders because of that. Don't know really what that's caused by. I think that stuff like that can happen with the crap I've got, but who knows? Anyway, so I was working that job, and I was like, okay, my hands are starting to feel arthritic. And my doctor ended up diagnosing me with inflammatory arthritis, and prescribed me to take naproxen, which, if you know anything about naproxen, it's a strong anti-inflammatory, and it can also rip your stomach apart. So that didn't really help me at all. And I just found that working just made it worse. I would wake up in the mornings and my hands would be swollen and hot, and they would ache so fucking bad. I couldn't even like lift up a cup of coffee, and it was pretty rough. And my body was suffering severely. This job was 4 days a week, 8-hour shifts plus. It depends if they ask you to stay, and then I was like, yeah, this is too much on my body. And so I left there, and I didn't work for a while, maybe over a year, maybe a little bit more, and still didn't know what was going on. But I think in that year, which year was this? 2022. So 3 years ago, I was 25 when my doctor diagnosed me with chronic fatigue syndrome. Um, officially she said to me, it's very obvious you have it, but it's chronic. So you have to give it time to see if it is chronic. So yes, it ended up being a chronic fatigue syndrome. I was severely fatigued all the time for years, unexplainably. And we had tried, like, my doctor would make me send like diet diaries where I would just explain my meals and how I've been feeling and things like that. And we spent years. At this point, it was 6 years of her trying to figure out what was going on with me. There's a lot of appointments in between and a lot of weird stuff in between that happened, and I can't quite recall. And if I can, I will go back to them. But basically, I would go to the doctor all the time for things, and she couldn't really explain what was going on. I have had every single blood test, like everything you can get tested, I have had tested. Um, and back on the neutrophils, they ended up kind of going back to normal and then going back down again. And my doctor kind of concluded at the time that it just is how I am. So that was another interesting thing but I did think, I read that there may be a connection to having low white cells or high white cells or low or high red cells in, I think it's EDS, one of the three. But I don't know how much that is supported or peer-reviewed or anything. So anyway, if it is, it makes sense. The unexplainable is explained. So yeah, I was 25 and I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome and also autism. So a lot of the things that I thought were, as a child, looking back at this point, and then I was going, oh, like, it's because I was autistic. I was like very intolerant. Not untrue. I was very intolerant to a lot of things, but I didn't realize until recently that it was like an actual physical thing. Another interesting thing is that there is a possible connection between EDS and autism, and it being that EDS has an effect on your connective tissue, which includes brain tissue. And so there is a link, but I don't believe it is like a confirmed thing. So yeah, but it explains it, which is quite interesting. The other thing is, like, neither of my parents have EDS. It can be passed down. It can also be that you had, I suppose you could call it, like, I don't know if it's like a genetic mutation or if, like, you just happen to get it. Not get it, but your genes just decided to develop that way. And going into the different types of EDS, I don't know what type I have. HEDS is the most common. Every other type is, I believe the rest of them are just classed as rare. I do have symptoms that don't just align with HEDS, and it is possible that I have either classical or classical-like EDS, but they don't really test you for it unless you have VEDS, which is vascular, which is the most serious type. It's a very, very serious type. I don't really need to go into it, but basically you can have a lower life expectancy with vascular EDS, and it does affect your heart and stuff like that. My doctor has checked me over and she doesn't believe that I have that. It's very unlikely. And basically, like I said, they do not do genetic testing unless they even suspect that you have it. And even then, they don't even really test you for vascular sometimes either. Going into the New Zealand health system, really troubling. I hear a lot from other people with EDS. I'm in a group, New Zealand group, and so many people are failed by our system, not to mention, but our government clearly does not really like disabled people. Neither do a lot of the people in New Zealand. I have had another job in between the very strenuous one. And now I also worked at it was like a food produce, so you're lifting crates of produce. And I again realized, unfortunately, I've tried very hard, and I really liked the job. But unfortunately, I had to leave when I just really, this was like the real point when I went, I cannot do this physically. I am a very hard worker and I really like the job. Um, and a lot of people, unfortunately, see disabled people as lazy or unmotivated, but unless you know how it feels to actually be disabled, then you're just not going to know. You just don't know how it feels. There is a grieving period for that too, which I will get into. But yeah, so that was in very early 2023. I have not worked since then. And I am, for full transparency, on supported living. So my government recognizes me as disabled, and so do medical professionals. I am lucky for that, even though I shouldn't really say that because it I didn't have a choice in this matter. And I have very well grieved that the feel that what feels the life that's been stolen from me, that I wish I could just work a normal job. There is very little jobs for people with disabilities to start off with. It's very easy for people to say, just do that, just do that, just do that. My disability is very hindering, severely hindering. I will go into now the symptoms that I do have and the state in which I am now. I use a cane to walk, which at first was a little tough, because I don't need it like right away, but I also do. So I can walk and I can run, but I will fuck up my hips terribly. I get severe pain in my hips and my back. I cannot breathe. I can't walk for 5 minutes without not being able to breathe, without limping because my hips are fucked. So a big symptom of EDS is being hypermobile, aka double jointed, which you have to pass like a test for that as well. My hands, not at all. Really common to have that one. My fucking fingers stiff as a board. No, I have hypermobile shoulders, back, elbows, knees, ankles, hips. And one of the biggest issues I have is with my hips, and is actually kind of what got the ball rolling when I spoke to my doctor last year. And I was messaging my best friend Ali, and I was like, "Is this normal?" And I sent her a video of my hip. Like, it's not like popping out of place. I don't really know how to describe it, but it looks like it's popping out of place. And she said, "No, that's not normal." And I went, "Okay, this is the first time hearing about this." So I thought, okay, because it really occurred to me finally last year, you know what? I can't really walk without limping. And then I try to overcompensate. Like, I've had that for years now. Like, even like 3 years ago, I remember I walked to the beach with a friend, and the walk back, I was limping so badly, and I'm trying hard not to limp because people driving past can see it, and I couldn't, I didn't have an explanation. I don't know why it's happening. All I know is that it feels like my hips are that of an action figure where a child has just pulled them off and put them back on about 50 times over. So that's kind of how it feels. And then after doing anything physical, I am fucked. It takes me days of being bedridden to even be able to get back out of bed, because my physical being is so exhausted. So as it turns out, chronic fatigue syndrome is a symptom of my EDS. So I have chronic fatigue, but it is not just chronic fatigue. It is one of the many symptoms under having EDS. And it is one of the most debilitating ones, apart from the pain that I am actually. I also have TMJ. Don't know if you can hear that, but my jaw pops like there's no fucking tomorrow. Like you're at the movies waiting for popcorn. That's what it sounds like. And that started probably like 5 years ago. And the dentist or the dentist, they're all like, it'll go away. Yeah, I don't think so. Not only do I have TMJ, which, sorry, if you don't know it, it's when your jaw it starts to become like misaligned. It like clicks, it pops out. It's the clicky thing in your jaw. That's TMJ, or you get pain. Mine is so bad now that sometimes it feels like the pain. I don't know if there's anyone out there that has this, but my ear, inside of my ear, because your jaw is so close to your ear, the pain radiates in there, and it feels like I am being stabbed with an ice pick inside of my ear because of the TMJ. You can feel my whole jaw popping out when you put your hand on it. It is bad. It aches all the time. I get headaches all the time because of it. I've always had headaches since a child, and migraines, but now I get different ones because of my jaw, which is also why sometimes talking even is very difficult to do because of it. Sometimes eating, there was one time I couldn't eat, I couldn't talk. It was that bad. And again, why some people suggest, why don't you get a job where you do like, I don't know, like, you call people, you do like those sorts of jobs, because sometimes I genuinely cannot speak, which is also why streaming is good, because I don't have to sit there talking the whole time. I can just sit and not move my jaw. And now that I'm thinking about my jaw moving, it's I'm becoming hyper aware of it. So we might move on from that. So that's a really annoying one. Funny story. The first time it ever happened, it ever clicked. I went on a date, and then I went to drop the girl off, and we started making out in my car, and my jaw clicked, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I have no idea where that came from. Never saw her again. And I have had a clicky jaw ever since. So that's a funny little bit of lore there. Anyway, I'm just going to go into, like I said before, some more of the symptoms. Stretchy skin is a common symptom of EDS, one that I have. So if you can't see it on, if you're just listening to this, that's fine. But I do have it on. You can see my face. Skin is pretty stretchy. My neck skin, I mean, it's everywhere, obviously, but I was showing one of my friends. I'm in a, what do you call it? A sleeping bag. But also why I don't have wrinkles. Yeah, the youthful looks. That's why. And my skin is stretchy everywhere. My arms and my face and my neck, and yeah, just all over. But it's not like noticeable, like you wouldn't really know that it is. But I mean, it's not. My tattoo artist has never mentioned it, but I suppose I never really noticed it either. I never really tried. I never really compared it or thought about it. A lot of these things you don't really think about. Pull out my notebook so that I can remember some things. I'm not really sure if I wrote it down in this notebook though. Oh no, I wrote it down in my podcast notebook. I'm just yapping to yap at this point. Okay, so in my notebook, yada yada yada. my symptoms, muscle weakness is a big one. So it's not that you have no muscles or that you are weak. Lord knows I have good muscles and I am very strong, and I have to lift a lot of cat litter and chicken food and cat food, 20 kg bags, like it's a piece of piss. Like, I can pick them up no problem. I shouldn't. I should not do that. So many things you should not do with EDS. You should not be lifting heavy things. You should not be pushing and pulling or playing contact sports and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, I have to with the fosters and stuff. So I have to lift a lot of bags and stuff. But you go through days and times, sometimes hours or minutes, where you feel very weak. And it definitely coincides with the fatigue, but it's a different feeling. It's not just full body fatigue. It's like you are needing 20 times the energy to lift something basic like your cup of coffee or your water bottle or just to walk to the bathroom. Your whole body, your muscles specifically, are weaker in moments. And I have had that for years. And when I was working my physical jobs, I would have to overcompensate. I could feel it too, because there were some days where I felt like I had energy, but that is like a normal feeling for an average person who does not have EDS, or I should say other disabilities as well. So those moments where I had these very brief moments of energy, that was like a normal amount of energy for anyone that is just healthy. And the rest of the time, there's this weakness where you have to work harder just to do something basic or things that someone could do a lot easier. It's very noticeable now that I think about it. It's very, very easy to see the difference, because some days, oh, this is easy, or some moments, this is easy, this is fine, this is normal, this feels like how it should feel. If anything, it feels like fantastic because you're so used to it not being that way. But yeah, a lot of the time, it's impossible. It feels impossible. It feels very difficult. It feels like you just want to drag yourself along the floor. Like, I don't know, not Rachel. What's Rachel's sister's name in Pet Sematary? Rachel! Like she's dragging herself along the floor. Yeah, it's this muscle weakness, but for a lot of people with EDS, they do just have muscle weakness where they find it very hard to maintain muscle, or but EDS symptoms aren't a feeling that is normal to a healthy person. So it's very hard to explain. It's not like, oh, I just don't have muscle. No, it's that sometimes, regularly, you feel that you have to overexert yourself to do a very basic task, as simply as I can explain it. Pain, fatigue, yeah, we know all about that. Big one is gastrointestinal. A lot of people with EDS have gastrointestinal problems, some a lot more than others. I find personally that with my EDS, I am lucky to not have a lot of issues that send me to the hospital. A lot of people have to have surgeries and a lot of emergency hospital visits because of their problems with EDS. I don't. I don't, because a lot of my issues are, although severe, cannot or would never be treated at an emergency hospital. It doesn't make sense to do that. They would, okay, go to the GP, get tested slowly, you get referrals and all that sort of stuff. So for me, gastrointestinal is not a big one. I say that, but I do have very, very bad acid reflux, or GERD, or GERD, whatever you want to call it, and indigestion. It started, I don't even know, Probably, again, early 20s, I would say, is when I really started noticing it. I've had indigestion my whole life. Um, so for me, how do I explain this? If you don't know what indigestion is, it's basically like when you feel there is food stuck in your chest, very upper chest, and you can't like get it down. You can't like it doesn't go down sort of naturally, and you need to drink fluids to help push it down. It does happen if you don't chew your food correctly and stuff like that. But for me, it didn't matter, so I always had to have a drink. That is not the healthiest way to eat, is to be like drinking while you eat and all that sort of stuff, but is very unfortunately, it is just the way I have to have it. So when I would go to people's houses who don't have drinks with their meals, I would sit there thinking that I'm about to die because it felt like I'd swallowed a brick and it was stuck in my chest and I am like about to keel over in pain. And I'm like, I need a drink right now. Sometimes it is, you actually like, good God, if you don't have that, then bless you. Seriously, it is horrible. I've always had that. Acid reflux started later. The difference being acid reflux, acid comes back up. It sits in your throat, in your chest. It's burning. And it's really fucking horrible. And you can't lay down because the acid starts to come back up. Sometimes it just does it regardless, and you don't even know it's going to happen sometimes with certain foods trigger it, acidic foods and certain spices. For me, a big one is actually like ginger and cinnamon. Big triggers for my acid reflux. Sometimes you get this sort of symptom. No, I shouldn't say symptom. I don't know what you want to call it. Dumping. And what dumping is, it's really common with people who have gastric bypasses, which is when you have like your stomach, you have stomach surgery where they make the stomach smaller. It's often used to help people lose weight. And it's also useful to help with acid reflux, actually, funnily enough, for some people. Anyway, that's very common. Dumping is very common for people who have had stomach surgery. But I do get that too, where you eat something, not even a lot. For me, it's like deep fried stuff. So like if I have like chips, hot chips, deep fried, sometimes, not every time. The other day it happened. I had some beautiful, delicious hot chips. I felt very full, even though I had more food. And I was like, geez, this is really just I didn't eat a lot. There wasn't a lot of chips, but fuck, I felt full. And then a few hours later, you are sweating, you are shaking, like trembling. You feel nauseous, because your body. There is a very medical explanation on what dumping is. Give me one moment. What is dumping syndrome? Food especially high in sugar moves from your stomach into your small bowel too quickly. That's what it is. It goes too quickly into your small bowel, and your body struggles to deal with that, which is why I also felt really full too, I think. I don't get this often, but that lasted hours. I was in bed, felt like I was dying. So there's like things like that, gastrointestinal acid reflux. I have to take omeprazole, which is like a proper medication. It's not like an antacid. It's a proper, medication that you have to get prescribed for things like that. And the reason being, I was having chest pains. I don't remember how long ago. A couple years ago. Anyway, a couple years ago. Chest pains for weeks, maybe even months. I can't quite remember, and they wouldn't go away. And I was like, yeah, it felt like it was in my heart too, and it very well felt like it was in my heart. And then I started coughing at night. Like I would be just coughing in the night with like a dry cough. Didn't know why. And then one day one night I should say, I started having some really bad chest pains. Like I was very scared, and I didn't know what to do, and I thought I was having a heart attack. It was very scary. It genuinely felt as if like they would describe like someone having a heart attack. So we had called the ambulance and they came and they did some tests, and I was not having a heart attack, thank God. They still sent me to the hospital just in case to get more tests done. But that was fine. And then my doctor said that she was going to give me omeprazole. She was giving me like a very high dose, and it didn't even work right away. It took a couple weeks before I actually started to find that the chest pains were lessening, and then they eventually got much better. So it was very scary, but that's sort of my gastrointestinal issues. I did used to have stomach pains when I was younger, when I was a kid, and my doctor just said that I wasn't having enough fiber. But I don't know what it was, if it was related or not in some way. Let's have a look. I've written a word here, and I don't know what it says. There's like an L, I don't know. Aching legs is a big one. Can't walk. Yeah, well, surely. Hypermobility. Broken bones. Yeah, I've broken my arms 3 times. I've had 5 broken bones so far. Yeah, that's one. Um, dislocations and subluxations, which is partial dislocation, if you weren't sure of that one. I don't think I've ever had a dislocation. Actually, no, I'm pretty sure I definitely have. But like it went straight back in. Uh, I definitely have had partial dislocations in my shoulder. I'm pretty sure I dislocated it in my sleep a couple months ago, and I had pain in my shoulder for ages after that, and I couldn't lift my arm up for quite a while, so I had to really take it easy. And I get partial dislocations in my I have had them in my elbows, definitely my hips, my shoulders. Those are some big ones there. Very common, very common. It's because your joints, it's too stretchy. Your connective tissue, it's all too stretchy. It links together like stretchy skin and everything. So that's another thing, is that I can't stretch. If you have EDS, you are not allowed to stretch. You need to strengthen the muscles to help support the joints that are weakened, that are affected because of EDS. Stretching is dangerous and it can cause injury. Does it stop me from laying on the floor and doing a big stretch every now and again? No. Does it hurt after? Yes, it does. And I didn't think that that was abnormal growing up, but it is. Something we always did before work, before we, like with my whole team, we would stretch. Oh damn, why am I sore? Why am I getting injured now? So that was pretty shit. I had a spine problem at work as well. I'd what do you call it? One of my discs or something was fucked at work one time, and my boss made me keep working. I remember that happened years ago. Anyway, yeah, the stretching is a big one. So yeah, you're not supposed to do that. I had to sell my trampoline because that wasn't good for me either. The one thing that I can do that actually feels like it's doing anything without fucking me over is swimming. I love, love, love swimming. I've always loved swimming. I live by the beach. Don't like swimming at the beach, but I love living by the beach. And so I'm thinking of getting a membership at the local pool. Hate chlorine. Can't stand it, but lane pools not so bad because there's not usually children pissing in it, which is ideal. So yeah, that's going to be, I'm hoping, really helpful there. Getting off track, I think, a little bit. Oh my God, I cannot read my own handwriting. Fainting. Fainting is part of POTS, I wouldn't say that I have very severe POTS symptoms, but I definitely do get them. Standing, like I said earlier, is very difficult, and I have an intolerance, and I get heart palpitations. I'm on beta blockers. I'm on, it's called atenolol. Unfortunately, it can make your blood pressure lower. So my already low blood pressure is lower than it was before. The heart palpitations have gone because of the medication, but I am a little more off balance. So, you win some, you lose some, which is a bit of a rough one. Anyway, so yeah, the POTS symptoms are not as debilitating as they could be, but there's definitely times where if I lift my arm above my head to have a wee look at something, oh shit, I think I'm about to pass out. That's all it takes. Unfortunately, more recently, those symptoms have worsened in the past year. If I haven't eaten, I suppose, in the right time frame, or uh, if I get in the shower and I'm just not feeling quite right, I have passed out in the shower. I did. My mum had to come in and turn the shower off, and I couldn't get up. And she threw towels over me to just keep me warm, and just helped me. She helped me get dressed and everything, which was really kind of her. And it was pretty rough having that happen, having someone have to take care of you because you are lying naked on the shower floor, which we have a shower bath, so at least there was room, but not ideal. So I've really avoided that happening ever again. And now it has almost happened, unfortunately, recently as well. And I had to run out of the shower and lay on the floor in a towel. But that time, my mum did say, "Don't get water on the floor." And I said, "Bitch, I'm about to pass out. So just relax a moment, would you?" Um, so yeah, I know the signs now when it's going to happen. Unfortunately, it is like a heat thing. I am intolerant to the sun and to heat very specifically. Uh, I got mild hypothermia with my friend last year as well. I'm very sensitive to like extreme, I won't even say extreme, but like definitely differences in like temperature. But heat's the worst one, especially being in the sun. And I get very faint being in the sun. I cannot stand being in the sun. I don't like it being hot. I find it very hard to cool down. I get hot flushes, like in my head, but I think that also might be related to MCAS, which is again mast cell activation syndrome. It's hard to know because there's a lot of overlap with everything. So yeah, the passing out is a problem. Um, like I said, especially in the shower. So I have to eat before I shower now, and I don't have very hot showers, and I try very hard to avoid all of that. I had an allergic reaction to my tattoos 2 years ago. Um, Not even recent ones. These were like I had these tattoos for like 5 years. All of a sudden, they started getting itchy all over, random, not specific to any artist or anything. And I was itching them so bad I was bleeding everywhere because of how hard I was itching. It was like ridiculous. And my doctor prescribed me like a cream to rub on them. Did nothing. That was my MCAS. My body was like allergic. It's having an allergic reaction for no reason. I've heard from other people having a similar experience. It just randomly happening. It went away. Um, it was kind of like a thing for a little bit there, and then it just kind of went away. Sometimes it does happen still. I take antihistamines every day to try and avoid that. I get very itchy ears. My ears are the cleanest ears you've ever seen in your whole life. I have an ear camera because I was like, I would love to dig out some wax like they do on the videos. I went in and I was like, Hello? Where?" There was nothing, not a speck speck of wax in my ears. I do use Q-tips. I know medical professionals will tell you not to, but I've been using them since I was a child, and I have absolutely the cleanest ears in the universe. But yes, I do get itchy ears, and no, it's not related to the Q-tips. Don't worry about it. And I get swollen lymph nodes in my neck constantly, which again relates back to my sore throats when I was a child. That was part of it, was getting those sore throats for no reason, which I still get to this day, very recurring. The itchy ears, the sore throats, the lymph nodes. And sometimes I wake up swollen lymph nodes. I'm not sick. I feel no different. Not sick in the slightest, but it is common to have your lymph nodes just swell for no reason. And it's the right side of my neck, lumpy as hell. I also get swollen lymph nodes in my jaw. You have them in like your like lower, sort of in here, in this bit in here. Sometimes it's very painful to press, and they become, I don't know why they become swollen. Maybe it's like the right, maybe, oh, do you know what it is? It's the right side. It's because I have the TMJ on the right side of my face. So the right side of my neck with the lymph nodes and all that. That's probably why. You know, I've just put the puzzle pieces together. Okay, so I said we were going to dig deep. Another issue I have is with EDS, you can have prolapses. I'm going to say I've never had one. Nothing wrong with that. I've never had one. But it can happen. And I, especially on my periods, it feels like my uterus is going to fall out. This is not a completely uncommon feeling. I know that some people do have it. I know that there's people with endometriosis that get that feeling, but that is a health condition. So it's not like you're just a healthy person. I don't know the research around that specifically, but I have spoken to other people with EDS, and I have spoken to people without EDS, and they were like, I don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, I get very, it feels like gravity is pulling my uterus out when I am on my period and I stand, not the whole time. Sometimes it's, I don't know how to explain. It's like, I suppose maybe when it's at like its worst part, like at the start. So when I would be working and if I had to stand, it was very uncomfortable. When you feel like your insides are about to be outside, I don't think it would happen, but it feels like it's going to happen. And I would have to sit down, and there's times where you can't sit down. But fucking Jesus, that really that was not pleasant. That was not a pleasant, that's not a pleasant symptom. I don't like it. It gives me the heebie-jeebies. That one specifically. Tinnitus. Oh yeah, I get tinnitus. My mum also gets tinnitus, but yeah, I get tinnitus quite a lot. Not the worst one, but a ringing in the ears. Nothing like tinnitus to wake you up. What's that one? Pleurisy. Oh, like the sharp pains. I get sharp pains in my ribs all the time. Speaking of ribs, I have fucked up ribs. Don't know why. Can't really explain that one. My rib cage is out of control. I have a floating rib that is ready to snap off. My doctor has said that we could get it removed, but it would probably be worse than if I can manage keeping it. So I've decided not to do that because having surgery to get a rib removed is not really ideal. It's not something I want to have to do unless I really have to do it. It did used to interfere with my job. I used to wrap pallets sometimes, and if you wrap them a certain way, my rib would get caught on my hip bone, the way you bend. Sounds bizarre, but yeah, that would happen. If I sit in bed funny, the cat walks over me funny. Yeah. Do you know what? I might even be able to show it on the video. I don't know if I can. But I'm gonna try and show you guys this rib because I'm gonna talk the talk, but I gotta walk the walk. I can't quite get it in the frame. I don't know if you guys can, sorry, I don't know if you guys can see it properly. It's much easier to see it in person, but basically you can grab it, you can wriggle it around, and it sticks out forward so it catches on things. And it gets worse if I lose weight. You can see it more and stuff like that. So I try to maintain a very healthy weight and all that stuff. But my bones all protrude bizarrely, kind of everywhere. My spine is like an instrument. Speaking of spines, last year I hit my spine after a doctor's visit. I got a B12 injection and then I almost passed out at the doctor's. The nurse fucked it up. She injured my arm, and I was very careful going out to my car. Now, what ended up happening was as I was getting in my car, driver's side is the right side of the car. My left arm had the injection, so I'm trying to get in, and I can't put my left arm down to help me in the car. So I'm leaning on a weird angle, getting in the car, and I hit my spine on the metal latch that the door connects to once it closes. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. It's like a square kind of rectangle metal piece that sticks out. I hit my spine directly on that. It hurt so bad. My mum was with me, thank God. I was, and now I was like, I'm gonna fucking pass out because the pain. I just thought that my pain tolerance had gone way down. I thought I'm just feeling extra sensitive right now. It's not actually that bad, even though I keeled over in the car, and I had to wait 10, 15 minutes before I could actually drive us home. So I did that. Weeks went by. It was still sore, but I eventually just ignored it. It didn't actively hurt to walk and move. Then fast forward to September of last year, I noticed when I push down on my spine, it hurts on the one vertebrae. I didn't put two and two together. I didn't realize that it was the same vertebrae that I hit back in months prior. It definitely was, but I didn't think of that at the time. And last year, after being diagnosed with EDS, I've started seeing a physio regularly. I got orthotics as well because because of my hypermobile knees and stuff, my legs go inward and then outward. Anyway, I need orthotics, basically. So I got orthotics. I see a physio. I see my doctor regularly. All that good stuff. And I noticed my back. I would press on the side. It hurts to push on it. I waited a little bit, ended up bringing it up to my physio, and she concluded that I had an inflamed ligament. Now, she didn't do any testing or anything. She just kind of went off what I was explaining. I did bring up the fact that I had hit it at the doctor's, but it was months prior, so of course you're not going to really think that it has anything specific to do with it. And she ended up pressing around it and all that good stuff, and it ended up making it worse. But weeks went by, still hurts. Months go by. I did bring it up to my doctor in October, early November last year as well, and she was like, okay, feels fine, but if it gets worse, then we'll figure out what's going on. So then fast forward to February, I go to the doctor February 1st or 2nd, she refers me to get an x-ray. You have to wait for them to call you, and then you get booked in and all that stuff. You don't just go and get it right away. Cool beans. I'm going to get my x-ray checked. She put it down as a possible fracture based off of what she concluded from what I explained. No idea what it was, but that was probable, it was likely. And from the pain and the symptoms I was having, which at this point they got bad. The back pain was worse than I've ever had it, and I am used to back pain. It hurts even more to touch. It hurts to sit. It hurts to lean. It hurts to drive. I can't do exercises, like basic exercises, if my back is like touching the floor, because it hurts that vertebrae specifically. So the weekend comes, and the freaking x-ray place, there was an issue there. I got the issue resolved, and then I called them all day and they wouldn't answer on a Friday, so they were definitely open. And then I thought, Jesus, okay, like I don't know when I'm going to get booked in for this x-ray. Saturday comes round. It was my birthday that day, and I didn't want to go to the hospital on my birthday. I was desperately not wanting to go to the hospital on my birthday. So I waited until it was like 1 a.m. and I went to the hospital. And I'm in the hospital for fucking hours and hours. And they sent me through right away, which is really good. But then you sit in the next room waiting for ages. I get seen, they take bloods, all that good stuff. Then eventually they're like, okay, we're going to do a CT scan and we're going to put in a cannula. Cannula hurt like fuck. This is the second time I've ever had one, and I don't know what it is. They're not supposed to hurt, but when I can tell you, it hurt bad. And I had a blood test like 10 minutes prior. Nothing. I'm good. I had a blood test. It's no big deal. And that was rough. So I was like, oh my God, I can't bend my arm. I can't use the arm because it hurts actively badly. My spine's fucked. I'm sitting in the chairs, uncomfortable chairs, and I'm in severe, severe back pain, thinking that my spine is fractured. I go for the CT scan. I can't use my arm. They have to flush this crap through the cannula in your arm, and it makes you feel like you're pissing yourself. Because of the pain from the cannula and how scared I was by myself. I was like convulsing. I was shaking, I was trembling, and I was cold, and so my whole body was like tense, tight, like I was having a very visceral reaction, and at this point I was just actually exhausted. It's like 5 a.m., 6 a.m., I don't even know, and I go back and I'm waiting hours. They didn't take the cannula out. So I'm sitting in the waiting room. I couldn't put my jersey on. I can't bend my arm. I am sore. My hands are going blue. Finally, I get called by the doctor, or a doctor, not the one I had, who was really nice and she was very knowledgeable about EDS. This is a different guy. And he's like, came back and we don't find anything. Like the nerves look good and there's no fracture or anything like that. Basically, he's just like, oh, you've just got to make sure you keep moving. And I'm like, do you know what, bucko? That's exactly what makes it fucking hurt, actually. And I would know because I've been having this pain in my vertebrae for 9 months. And he's like, with EDS, you've got to like keep moving and stuff, even when it feels like you're in pain. And I'm like, I do. I have to. I have foster animals. I get up. And it's still there. My spine should not hurt to the touch. Like the whole vertebrae is very sore, and it is not a pain that I have had before. It is like a very localized pain to that spot. The guy did what he could. It's the emergency room. They're not gonna treat me like yes, it's not an emergency clearly. So he takes the cannula out, and Jesus, it bled and it was sore, and my arm hurt for like 2 weeks after. I don't know why the cannula hurt so bad on my arm. I don't know why I was so pissed off about the cannula, but I just was. So I have the doctors tomorrow, actually, because I have not had anything since last month about this. I do think I'm going to need an MRI on my spine so that they can really see what's going on. This is kind of off track, to be honest, but it's just what's going on with me right now, and we suppose we'll see with that. I still don't know. There's it's ongoing stuff. In regards to my EDS and treatment and management, I do physio. Does it help? No. Should I still do it? Yes. I'm really hoping that swimming is going to help, actually. Medications. Like I said, I take beta blockers for the heart palpitations. That's nice. It helps. I take magnesium with turmeric. I take B12. I take vitamin C, or is it multivitamins? And I take vitamin D just to keep on top of all that. And then I have recently started a new medication for about a month. Now, this medication is low dose naltrexone, and generally it is used not low dose. When it is a normal dose, it is used to treat alcohol or opioid addiction. Naltrexone blocks the opioid receptors. Now, in low doses, and I'm talking it's low dose, it can be used to treat chronic fatigue and pain in people with like rheumatoid arthritis, cancer, multiple sclerosis, fibromyalgia, and just similar conditions that have very overlapping symptoms. One of them being EDS. Now, it's not guaranteed that's going to help. I think it's like 1 in 5 people. That's kind of what my doctor has seen. And I cannot say that it has done anything, but I have also read that it takes a good 8+ weeks for you to notice a difference. It tastes like fucking shit. It's a liquid. It's liquid. It's horrible. I dread it. It gave me severe nausea when I first started taking it. It supposedly can give you wild dreams and nightmares and trouble sleeping. Yes, I got every symptom under the sun. Sorry, side effect. I got every side effect from this medication, and you can't take any opioid medications while you're on it because you can overdose. So I have to be very careful. I can't take anything with codeine in it, which I didn't really anyway. It was only like for my periods. So the other problem is pain relief doesn't work for me. I take Panadol and ibuprofen. I can't take naproxen because it rips my stomach apart anyway. Sometimes, occasionally, it might help for a headache. Doesn't really. Not really. I can't really say that pain relief does anything. I joke that there's so much pain and discomfort in my body that the pain tablets go in and go, fuck, where do we start? I'm not really, bitch, I don't really know where to start with you. So unfortunately, I do just kind of have to endure most and all of the pain and discomfort that I feel. Am I used to it? Yes. Is that a good thing? No. But it means that I understand my body and I know the differences when I get new pains or different pains or discomforts or feelings. I've only, like I said, recently had this diagnosis, and I'm very recently learning that all of the things that I've been feeling weren't crazy or insanity, or I'm not a hypochondriac, or I'm not imagining these things, because you go to the doctor so many times with random stuff and it gets to the point where you think, she's going to start thinking I'm making it up because there's no explanation. It's very difficult because you know deep in your heart, I am feeling this pain. I am feeling this issue. My body is reacting. I am passing out. I am throwing up. I am in severe pain. But why? And you never know. If you don't know why, then you just feel a bit insane. And it's very difficult, but never give up on that. Never give up on advocating for yourself, figuring out what's going on, and understanding how you feel and how your body feels. Especially being women, it's very difficult to be taken seriously by medical professionals because there's still a huge lack of research in medical issues with women. Women react differently to medications, which that's the issue with research as well, was that so much of the medical research was done on men. So the solutions are a lot of the time for men. And unfortunately, that's just, I think even recently they found that pain relief doesn't really work the same for women. There was a study, National Geographic posted something about a study on that. So very interesting. Even worse so, having EDS, something that is considered rare, definitely uncommon. And when I say that, I'm saying one of the most common types of EDS, which is HEDS, hypermobile EDS, doesn't even, I shouldn't say doesn't, they don't know the genetic markers for it. There are genetic markers for HEDS. They don't know what they are because of how under researched it is, because of how much more research we need to do for it. So, that's how far behind we are. They're able to distinguish with the other types, the genetic markers, excuse me, but they don't know what they are. They know that there's there, but it's very scary to think that you're dealing with something that's that under researched, and there's no cure. That's for sure. I mean, there is no cure for EDS. I will have this forever. I've had to accept that. Unfortunately, I've felt, especially recently, that it feels progressive. My doctor grounded me the other day and said, it is not. It's not how that works. Even if it's doing it, it doesn't mean that it will. She's optimistic, but God, I swear to God, I've almost made my doctor cry multiple times just because she's been there for me for so long. She's seen how hard I've worked to try and get better, only to now know that it's not exactly going to work that way. So many years I spent thinking I'm going to be better and get better and this will go away eventually. And then you come to a point and you realize that's not going to happen. I need to change my entire mindset and plan of attack to consider what is now the truth, my truth, that I have a condition that will be there forever, that I cannot do certain things. I just cannot. That I can do so many things. I just have to do them a bit differently. It's like just learning to live all over again, but this time you're doing it with more kindness for yourself and more patience. I was living a life trying to live up to the standards of society and what is expected of normal, regular, healthy people. My body is just not that. I cannot do that. And if I try, I will not make it through. I physically and mentally and emotionally cannot do it. And I will destroy my body trying to. And I will not do that just to be trying to keep up with people who have normal, healthy bodies, because that's just not fair, is it? I mean, it is not fair that you have to work 100 times harder and still cannot even do some of the things. So that's it's tough, not impossible, and every single person with EDS has a different journey. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I've missed a lot. I could probably keep yapping, and maybe I will. I'm not really sure. I've got stuff written down on my phone, so I might just have a wee look to maybe fill in some blanks. And I'm definitely open to questions. I should have probably done some kind of questions before, um, so that I could cover all bases. But I'm just gonna have a wee look on my phone and see what I've written down. I try to keep track of what's going on and what has gone on in my life, health wise, so that I can document it, understand it, and learn how to manage it. Um, yeah, a lot of this I talked about already. Hypermobility, local anesthetic intolerance. Another thing I'm really intolerant to is alcohol. I cannot drink alcohol. Um, it's like you not. It's not like I get drunk. I do get like drunk very quickly, but it's not just that. I get sick. I throw up. I can throw up after one drink. I get very hot and flushed, and like I'm having an allergic reaction, and I get nauseous, and I feel very unwell. When I was a teenager, we're drinking alcohol and all that. I could, but if I started throwing up, that's it. There were times where I was sick for a week straight after being at a party because my body's reaction was so insane. And so I don't, maybe once every 6 months, I might have one drink. But to be honest, I don't like it. I don't like the taste. And it's just not a good idea. I just have a lemonade or something. So yeah, that's definitely a big one. I don't take drugs, and I don't smoke, and I don't drink alcohol. My body is completely intolerant to all of that sort of stuff. I was never really interested in it anyway. I did smoke cigarettes for a couple years in my early 20s, and but then I threw up violently from them, and they made me sick. Sometimes if I tried smoking last year, like one cigarette, and I threw up all night long, the whole night. So yeah, it's not a bad thing, of course, but yeah, that's unfortunately part of that. The glasses. I got my glasses last year actually, and there is a link towards myopia and EDS, which is exactly what I have. So whether it's related, actually, I don't like, of course it could just be coincidence with me, but it could also just be because of the EDS. I'm not sure. Um, I get vertigo. Yeah, that's a big one. I just wrote fall into the walls all the time. Yeah, and we've got big doorways, and it's like I'm fucking shoulder barging the doorway for no reason. Um, yeah, the orthostatic intolerance is a big one, but my cane helps with that. Like I standing in one spot for like more than a minute, very uncomfortable. Like I cannot describe how uncomfortable it is for my hips, and my back. Oh, you know what a recent one I found out is, of course, I think it has to do with the stretchy skin, is that my skin cuts easily, especially when it is wet, like in the shower, right? So you're in the shower, you've got a shampoo bottle to open, but it's not like a pop lid. It's a lid that you have to lift up. It's got like a little ridge. You just pop it open like that. Um, you could use your nail sometimes to just lift it. My nail's very bendy, so I can't. So I need to use my actual like thumb or my finger. Problem is, anytime I try to do that, it rips my skin open. Um, and yes, I have very nice soft hands, but it's done this even when I had calloused hands from working. So that's a new one recently. It's not like it hinders much, but I can't open anything, especially in the shower. I have to use the windowsill to pop open any of my hair products or stuff like that, because it'll just rip my finger open, and then I get out and it's like it's worse. Like, if you've ever had a cut in the shower and you get out, it's worse after you get out, because when you're in the shower, the skin's all soft. So you don't realize it right away. And then you get out and you're like, fuck, like that's a dent in my goddamn skin. Especially if, I don't know, if you've done like shaving or something like that, for sure. That's a common one. Oh, you know what? I feel like I've covered all of the symptoms that I get. Actually, yeah, I feel like I haven't. I feel like there's so many more, but it's debilitating. So summarize, yeah, it's completely debilitating. Day-to-day life for me, I suppose I could briefly delve into, is that I sleep a lot. When I do sleep, I need to allow myself to fully sleep and then wake on my own. If I'm woken, which is very hard to do because I am a dead sleeper, but if I am woken, or if I have an alarm, or if I have to do something, it's very difficult for me to wake up. It does take hours for me to like wake up. So when I do wake up naturally, which is how I do it now, I have to lay there for a while before I get up and actually like even go to the bathroom or anything like that. So that's a big one. I'm a big night owl because generally I have a lot of light sensitivity, and the sun and the heat in the daytime is just not the most pleasant. So I sleep. My ideal sleep schedule is like going to sleep at 2 a.m. and then waking up naturally like before midday, but depends what I've done. I've had to learn my threshold physically, especially just doing like exercises. If I overdo some exercises at home, I'm messed up for days. I mentioned it earlier. I will be completely messed up. The next morning, I will wake up. My whole body feels inflamed. It feels swollen. It feels achy and exhausted. And it's not like I've done anything specifically exhausting in regular terms, but for my body, you push that threshold just too far, and that's the difference. You go slightly under, you wake up and you don't have any of that. You just have your regular stuff. You push it just over, fucked for days. So unfortunately, it's a tough line to figure out, but you kind of figure it out over time, and you go, okay, like this is what's done it. So yeah, the sleeping. When I do wake up, I always have a coffee. My doctor has prescribed coffee for my low blood pressure. I have it weak anyway, so what difference does it make? Excuse me. I always have toast, and I try to eat a lot of vegetables, which is really good. Cooking's a massive struggle. Some days it's very difficult to stand in the kitchen. Most days. I'm not gonna undersell it. It's most days. At this point in my life, I walk, like I said, I walk with a cane. I've got to bedazzle it. I've yet to bedazzle the cane, but I will. I don't really leave the house. I get groceries delivered because I buy a lot of cat litter, so I'm not exactly going to the store and buy 15 kg bags of cat litter, like fill up my car. I would be dead by the time I get home. And they don't fit in the trolley. So yeah, I get delivered. I don't really leave the house. Like I said, it's difficult to maneuver physical movement in general. Cooking, very difficult. Showering, very difficult. But we have like a seat naturally because it's a round bath. So I can do that. I see a physio. I'm supposed to do physio exercises. Sometimes I am too exhausted to even do my physio exercises, which is very disappointing. I try to stream every day. It keeps me in good spirits, at the very least. I do have a lot of foster animals and adopted animals from bad situations. So I change litter trays, I clean litter trays, feed them, water bowls, just the usual stuff. I do have a little bit of help from my mum, which is really nice, but it's not her responsibility. So, like, that's for me to do. That exhausts me pretty badly, just doing some basic stuff. That stuff is always first. Like, I will take care of them, obviously, first before I ever take care of myself. They are always taken care of, no matter what, which is important, of course. Most important thing to me, anyway. They keep me sane and happy. Carter's in the bed right next to me right now. Hi, Tiny. Hi, lovely. And then sometimes I can't stream. I'm too exhausted. I've had a lot of problems with my eyes, especially since needing glasses. So headaches, migraines, fatigue, nausea, dizziness has been a really big one lately for no reason. I get very dizzy and I get vertigo and I have to take vertigo tablets. Close my eyes and I feel like I am being spun around violently. It's not a nice feeling, but that's definitely a more recent one. Yeah, I spend a lot of time with my friends who live overseas, so we hang out in calls, which is very low maintenance because I don't need to be physically active for that. It keeps me social and sane, thank God. But on the EDS side of things, of course, I need a lot of sleep. I need a lot of rest. Yeah, like I said, this was never going to be a linear storytelling of my journey. But I would say that's like pretty much most of it. It all affects me so deeply and in every aspect of my life, like even mentally and emotionally, it's very defeating. I grieved. I wrote a poem. I don't know if I'll read it here. I'll do something on that in the future. But yeah, it's one of those things where you have to grieve your life, what you wanted for yourself, what you wished for yourself, what you may have not even wanted but could do if you really wanted to, but you can't. So there's a lot of grief involved with having a disability. And chronic fatigue syndrome itself isn't recognized as a disability, even though it is one of the most disabling things you can have. But luckily, EDS is recognized as a disability. So, at the very least, yeah, my government does recognize that it is, and I do get minimal support in that regard to just live. But yeah, it can be a little bit bleak. There are countries far worse off. I know that for sure. But it doesn't mean that we aren't all deserving of so much more for our health. And especially disabled people. I mean, Jesus, you don't get a choice. This isn't a choice you make. You don't choose to be born with something like that. You don't choose to be born at all, but especially to be born with something that hinders you to the point where you can't even walk or you can't even exist as a seen as normal member of society. But yeah, I mean, there's stigma around it as well. Like, having a cane has been different because that's something I need publicly. This has all been very private for me. Though I am very transparent about a lot of things, it's still this is my private story. This is something that I don't talk in depth with people unless They are my best friends. Um, I yeah, this is very deep and personal to me, and it's still very recent, so I'm still processing and figuring things out, and I am still young. I still look young, so there's that, but, it's new and it's fresh for me, and I'm still figuring it out, and, um, yeah, it's crazy, but, oh, excuse me, Jesus, that wasn't pleasant. Uh the symptoms and the journey and the day to day I went over. I really should have planned this out better. I'm sorry, guys. Um, yeah, I I try very hard, and I've tried very hard to do everything, to do to use every avenue to manage and help my symptoms. Um, and I've got to be honest, I haven't had very good luck. I have not had I wouldn't even say I've had any good luck at all. Um, I feel lucky as a person in general to have what I have, but luck is not on my side. Every avenue I go down, it just seems to be another dead end. And I hope that there will be more breakthroughs with the research for EDS and similar conditions or similar conditions that have overlapping symptoms, especially debilitating. I mean, there's got to be some more things that we can try, but I do feel like I've tried a lot, and it is defeating. I know I've said that, but it really is. And I won't stop. I won't stop trying. I'm gonna keep trying with this medication, even though it tastes like fucking shit and I don't feel great taking it, but I will try it until I can say that it's not working. I will never stop helping animals, no matter what. That's my purpose in life, and I give back to my community in that way. Though I cannot work, I cannot work, you know, a normal job. I can still give back to my community by helping in ways with that, with rehabilitating our wildlife, which is very important in New Zealand, wild birds and protected birds, especially, and helping take care of neglected and abused animals and keeping populations down for stray and feral cats and things like that, which it is a difficult thing to do, and it is important for the New Zealand ecosystem and wildlife. So I do feel I give back to my community in the ways that matter. Not that I owe it. I do not feel that I owe that much. Even if that wasn't my purpose and wasn't my calling, and I was still disabled and couldn't work, I don't feel that I would owe that. I feel that I should be allowed to live the life that I want because so much of it has been stolen. So much of my options have been stolen. So I think that to put that into perspective, people who have able bodies, they have options. Um, and they are not held back in that specific regard. Not taking in class or minorities and things like that. Just having an able body is very different, and it means that you have the ability to do things that people who are disabled cannot. And I mean, it's called a handicap for a reason. You're held back in some ways. You are brought back, so you have to fight harder. So like I said, I don't feel that I owe anyone anything, or I don't feel like I owe society anything, but I feel grateful that there is something that I can do to give back. I'm sorry. I know I'm getting really off track, but it all kind of links together with my story in some ways. And yeah, I'm getting a bit tired now, so it's almost been 2 hours of yapping. Speaking on the podcast though, I have downloaded an app to learn some like basic 2D animation, and I'm actually going to just teach myself how to use that. And I would like to make a small animation for the podcast, a small intro. So the ones that we have right now, just bear with. It's just a temporary thing, just figuring it out. I'm just trying to figure it all out. I teach myself all of this stuff. So yeah, I'm going to work on that and try and make this a bit more interactive and personable for you guys and for me. Other than that, I know this was a lot, and if you have any questions, feel free to comment, message me privately. You can message me on Instagram if you would like just to have a private conversation. Zasha loves cats. It's the same on everything. Otherwise, feel free to comment, and I will try to navigate and answer any questions that I can, because I know that there are definitely people who have similar things going on, who are actively trying to figure out what's going on and don't really know which avenues to go down or what to do or even how to advocate for themselves. And sometimes it's just about finding a good medical professional, that's for sure. Unfortunately, there are people who have had to. In New Zealand, you don't usually have to pay, you shouldn't have to pay like to get seen by like you do have to pay for the doctor, but like large amounts of money to be seen by specialists. Usually you would get like referrals. But there are people who suspect they have EDS, and because they don't have a GP that takes them seriously, they have to book in with a specialist that costs a lot of money and has a lot of wait times, like many months, years even of wait times. So it can be quite difficult to even get a diagnosis at all. So, yeah. But if you suspect that you're dealing with some sort of chronic condition, then definitely advocate for yourself, because it's important and it's not normal. It is not something that you say, this is just normal. Sure, it's normal for you if it's what you're used to. It's not normal. There's nothing wrong with that, but it also means that it's important to understand what is going on so that you can plan around it and with it and through it and keep moving forward. So yeah, just a lot of yapping, a lot of weird back and forths. I think I had a lot more points to touch on that I have gone completely blank over, but such is life. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it there so that I don't continue yapping. And I'm gonna say take care, everybody. I'm not sure what the next podcast episode is going to be on, but I do have some ideas for ones with Ellie and Vlad, and some where it's just going to be me talking, me yapping away. I have a few stories to tell about other situations, and some juicy ones, actually, I've got to say. I've got a juicy one that will be a long story. It is never a short story, this one. So definitely stay tuned for that. I'd like to do that in the next month, I would say, similar to this. So yeah, I'm about to start coughing. So I'm gonna hop off, and I'm gonna say take care, everybody. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Take care. Thank you so much for listening and supporting me, and just doing your thing, just being yourself. It means a lot to me, and I appreciate you guys. So stay safe and stay cool and stay fresh and kiss a cat on the head. By the way, cats can lower your risk of heart disease. Fact. And I have 13 of them. So let that sit with you. Good night, everybody.